Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the plagues in Exodus, but we're going to look at them in a way you might not have before, not just as disasters, but as a full-blown theological battle. We'll be breaking down this cosmic showdown, drawing heavily on the incredible insights of biblical scholar Dr. John Oswalt. Okay, let's get right into it. We all know the story, right? The river of blood, the frogs, the hail, it's famous. But what if these weren't just a string of random, unfortunate natural disasters? What if they were actually a calculated, escalating series of challenges in a cosmic war of ideas? So, Dr. Oswalt's whole take on this is that this entire sequence isn't about random punishment at all. Nope, he frames it as a direct contest. This was a showdown between Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, and the entire pantheon of Egyptian deities, one by one. This slide really gets to the heart of the conflict. It's a total clash of worldviews. I mean, think about it. In one corner, you have Yahweh, who is presented as the one, single, self-existent God who is the source of everything. And in the other corner, you've got the Egyptian pantheon, a whole team of gods who weren't the source of nature, but were actually the embodiment of nature. Gods of the Nile, gods of the sun, even animal gods. It sets the stage for a massive confrontation between two completely different ways of seeing the universe. So let's see how this actually plays out on the ground. Take the fifth plague, the death of all the livestock. This was a shot aimed right at the heart of Egyptian worship. I mean, they revered powerful animals like the sacred bull, Apis, as symbols of fertility and life itself. So when their livestock start dropping dead, it's a direct challenge to the power of those very gods. And then things escalate with the boils. And you gotta notice the progression here. In the beginning, Pharaoh's magicians could kinda copy some of the signs, but then they couldn't. Now, with this plague, the text makes a point of saying they couldn't even stand before Moses because the boils were on them too. They went from being rivals to being victims, totally unable to protect themselves. Their gods had no power here. And this is where it gets really vivid. Dr. Oswald paints this incredible, gut-wrenching picture. Imagine a priest, probably covered in these painful boils himself, going to do his morning duty, serving the sacred bull, who was seen as the living image of the god Amun-Ra. And in that moment of horror, he looks at his god and sees the same boils. The question becomes unavoidable. Who is really God here? Clearly, it's Yahweh, not the bull. And the hits just keep on coming. Next up, hail and locusts. These plagues just obliterate the crops, the very domain of Osiris, the powerful god who was supposed to represent the cycle of death and rebirth in the harvest. By wiping out the crops, Yahweh was demonstrating absolute power over life and death in a way that Osiris was completely helpless to stop. And now we get to the climax of this divine confrontation, a plague of pure darkness. This was a direct, unmistakable assault on Egypt's top god, the most powerful deity they had, the sun god, Amun-Ra. Just try to imagine this sheer terror for a sun-worshipping culture when the sun simply disappears. It was the ultimate statement that even the greatest source of life and power in their entire world was completely under Yahweh's control. But, you might be thinking, okay, but couldn't this all just be a string of really bad luck? A series of unfortunate but totally natural coincidences? Well, the text itself actually gives us a framework for understanding why these events are presented as way more than just natural phenomena. According to Oswalt, a biblical miracle isn't about destroying the laws of nature. It's more about God stepping in and using nature, but in a way that is just unmistakable. It's a divine intervention that stands out because of its timing, its scope, and its sheer power. And the Exodus story points to three huge markers that set these events apart. First off, the timing. The plagues happen at the precise moment Moses says they will. Second, there's a clear distinction. They hammer the Egyptians, but completely spare the Hebrews over in Goshen. And third, the intensity. We're not talking about a bad storm or a few bugs here. These events are catastrophic, on a scale way beyond any normal experience. Okay, so that brings us to the crucial point of the whole story, the so what of it all. The purpose of these plagues wasn't just to beat up on Egypt's gods or even just to free the Hebrews. The ultimate goal was to reveal something incredibly profound about Yahweh's own nature. You have to remember how this whole thing kicked off. When Moses first confronts Pharaoh, his response is basically, Yahweh? I do not know any Yahweh. So God orchestrates this entire epic series of events as a progressive, powerful, impossible-to-ignore answer to that one statement. It's an education, designed so that Pharaoh and everyone else will know. And what's fascinating is that as you move through the story, you can actually track this revelation through a series of no statements. It starts by simply revealing God's name. The Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh. Then it expands to show that he's unique. There is no one like Yahweh. Then it shows he's present right there in Egypt, in this land. And finally, it goes global. There is none like me in all the earth. The scope just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And right here, the text just lays it all out, plain and simple. God tells Pharaoh, this isn't just about you. This isn't just about Egypt. I have raised you up to be the stage for a universal declaration, a demonstration of my power designed to be proclaimed in all the earth. So, after all this overwhelming evidence, you'd think Pharaoh would finally get the message, right? But he doesn't. He refuses to yield. And as the story unfolds, it becomes crystal clear that the real battle isn't just with the gods of Egypt anymore. It's an internal battle raging within Pharaoh himself. It really all boils down to this one single question from God. The whole conflict, the theological debate, the contest of power, it all comes down to this. The central issue is Pharaoh's pride, his absolute refusal to humble himself before any higher authority. There's this one moment where Pharaoh actually seems to break. He says the words, I have sinned this time. But Moses sees right through it. And why? Because Pharaoh is only focused on getting rid of the painful consequences. He says, we have had enough. All he wants is for the pain to stop. He's not sorry for what he did. He's just sorry he's suffering. Dr. Oswalt has a great term for this. Foxhole religion. You know exactly what this is. It's that promise you make when you're in deep, deep trouble. Lord, just get me out of this mess, and I swear I'll do whatever you say. The focus is 100% on escaping the consequences, not on actually being right with God. And that stands in stark contrast to what true repentance actually looks like. As Dr. Oswalt puts it, the fundamental act of surrender is to finally come to that place of saying, it's your life and you can live it through me. It's about bowing the knee, which is the one thing Pharaoh, a man who believed he was a god, was completely unwilling to do. Dr. Oswalt concludes all of this with a really powerful metaphor. Think about the sun. The exact same sun can have two completely different effects. If it shines on dry, dead stubble, it just bakes out the last bit of moisture, confirming its death. But if that same sun shines on an open wound, it can draw out the poison and bring healing. God's power, he suggests, acts in the exact same way. And that leaves us with the central question of the entire story. See, God's purposes will be accomplished. That's a given. The real choice we have is whether they will be accomplished because of our willing participation or in spite of our resistance. Are we the stubble, hardened and resisting until our own destruction? Or are we the wounded, turning to that same power for healing? It's the choice that Pharaoh faced, and ultimately, it's a choice that confronts every single one of us.